Axon is going to become the default. That I'm really grateful to Aaron, our IT guy is terrific. He put that in his budget, not in mine, but it's really mine. It's mine and the sheriff's office, to be clear. That was a substantial increase this year when we move over to Axon. I think going on to this cloud storage stuff means that we're at people's mercy. So year over year, I expect that to be a challenge for us. We are also moving to a new prosecutorial software. We've been promised that for the last 5 years. It's always 18 months away. I'm now being told that it's 12 months away, so I don't know when that's actually going to kick in, but the county's budgeted for that for a while now, so it's not going to be a surprise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And next up and last of the presentations this evening is the Cumberland County Extension Service.
And now for something completely different.
The Extension Service is not a department within the county. It falls under one of the few grants that the county gives on an annual basis. It is a requirement under state statute that we provide funding to the Extension Service. That and the soil and water conservation under the two requirements by state statute. And so I will pass it off to them if they're ready.
Okay, thanks for allowing us the opportunity. And I know with the last ones, but we have a history of meeting with the full commissioner board, reviewing the budget, telling people about the programs that we have, and I'd like to take a little bit of time to just to say we appreciate the time. Budget time is a hard time for everybody. And listening to the presentation so far, you know, there's a lot on the table, okay? So the Cumberland County Extension Association is not part of the University of Maine system. It's a separate body that is under statute, like Jim said, to manage and steward the financial resources, largely coming from the county. So the extensions service is educationally based. I'm going to read some things here. Educationally based agricultural sciences, and these programs are made available to the residents using methods of teaching and learning in order to improve the lives of people. We do not do emergency work. Our work and outcomes are manifested in building lifelong habits and skills that enable independence in food growth, production, safe handling, preservation of food, and the passing forward of these skills and habits to younger generations. We work with individuals and families. We work with community groups, ethnic minorities, our newest Mainers, those with marginalized incomes, those who are incarcerated. Extension programs are available and used by commercial businesses, restaurants, large social gatherings where food will be featured or prepared to ensure safe handling. University Cooperative Extension has a long history of providing citizens with science-based information, method, and practice in agriculture. Each state, as they have come into being, has developed the land-grant college. And within each land-grant college, there's a department responsible for extending the reach of the information through research on to farmers and families so that they can improve the food and animal raising production that they've chosen as a life practice. As the science has gotten better, so has the life and health of farmers and gardeners who have adopted the Extension's recommendations. Extension Service has 4 major program areas: 4-H youth development, agriculture, food and nutrition, and horticulture. We'll start with 4-H. 4-H has a traditional history and is most often known for the animal husbandry exhibit seen at the county fairs in the fall. These examples of the work and skill practiced by children and adolescents are some of the most favored barns to visit at the fair, and they always draw from our own children as we take them and become fair attendees. My kids, when we started going to the Cumberland Fair, they couldn't wait to talk about their favorite parts of the fair when we would ask them, and they would always mention when they were very young the animals, the rabbits, the lambs, the cows. And within those experiences, 4-H has developed like a funnel of new members, because as kids want to have, practice raising a chicken or two, practice raising rabbits, they're encouraged to join the 4-H, because most people understand that the 4-H is, that's what 4-H does. And a lot of members come up through there. Of course, a lot of members of 4-H programs come from farming families themselves. Raising and showing animals is not the only popular club-oriented program in 4-H. As a matter of fact, the Cumberland County 4-H currently has 17 active clubs. Many of them meet after school. We have clubs in subjects like community service and leadership, training adolescents, and a fairly new one is the STEAM Club, the science, technology, engineering, arts, math groups. One of the newer partnerships forged by 4-H recently has been with a group of new adolescent Mainers from Cambodia who were interested in learning leadership skills to be able to develop better acclimation to our life here from their home country. The Khmer people in the Portland area has been part of a grant that was youth leadership, was designed for youth leadership. That grant is coming to an end, but some of the photographs, I'm not sure that we have any.
The top one is the Khmer group.
That top
Yep.
one? Okay.
It's kind of small.
It's a process of building community with our new folks, anyway. We have a total of 80 adult volunteers in our 4-H program now. And those 80 adult volunteers have devoted 7,860 hours in the various 4-H clubs. I'm not going to stop for questions if you let me just go through this, and I'll be more than happy to answer some questions. Agriculture programs, we have an assistant professor here with us who works in the Cumberland County office.
And he's a star.
He is.
Jason Lilly
Jason
here,
Lilly,
gentlemen,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. He presents all over the world, so.
Mentioned that the sustainable agriculture process or methods that is currently being actively recommended by Jason In terms of sustainability, traditional farms, without a lot of information, would be using up soil nutrients, as an example. And when crop production lowered, they would have to add more nutrients. They had to buy more fertilizers, buy more lime, whatever the case was. With sustainability, they're using methods to add the soil instead of depleting it. Jason would be better to explain that than I would. Soil needs to be nurtured and fed, and the way to do that is oftentimes using other plants and then tilling them in, rather than using more chemical fertilizer. Not that people don't use chemical fertilizer, but with sustainable practices, they use less. Growing crops, vegetables, grain, hay, raising livestock, dairy products, takes an immense amount of practice and knowledge, and traditionally handed down in families. Farms that are being started today, being reclaimed, being operated by young couples and families, very much like the family farms of the past, although overall we're losing family farms, and that's just not in Cumberland County, but that's all over the state. And that's a tragedy to me. And we're doing all we can to promote new people who want to come to Maine and farm. Maine has a tradition of farming, and there are a lot of people who would like to be here, not only for that, but the other benefits that the state has. Most of the consultation available that Jason does to farmers is on a person-to-person basis, also through conventions and conferences. In 2025, over 1,600 clients were seen by Jason and helped by his recommendations. A recent and exciting addition to the agriculture programs is maple syrup production. And again, Jason's been very instrumental in growing maple syrup production as a backyard hobby for a lot of people. And he's gotten help from extension agents in Vermont and other maple syrup producing states. They produce video programs teaching the production practices for homeowners as well as commercial producers. There's been over 200 backyard maple syrup projects started in 2025. Other things the agriculture program does is offer tractor safety certificates, which is a state certification for young folks who work on farms or want to. These programs teach the young folks how to drive a tractor and assist in that way. Food and nutrition. The programs in the food and nutrition program are in many ways, to me, like the central part of the array of services offered. They answer questions from home gardeners like, what do I do with all these vegetables? I've got oodles of tomatoes. I've got a zucchini up the yin-yang, and what do I do with them? Food and nutrition folks will offer classes, workshops, and webinars to folks to subscribe to learn how to preserve foods, the different ways that different foods have to be preserved, how to handle them safely. Let's see. Right now, the extension program at the extension office has 25 active volunteers who last year put in 200 hours of volunteer work. Classes are given at the office kitchen and on other locations determined by the audience needs. Safe handling, food safety training is offered in person on videos. Available courses for certifications. There's a program called ServSafe. It's a copyrighted program, but the state of Maine has required ServSafe to be taken and passed at a certain percentage rate in order to work in food service. The staff in our office in food and nutrition teach that course. One of the folks in the office has had a program that's been offered to inmates serving time in Maine prisons, learning how to safely care for the produce grown in the gardens at the prisons. EFNP, or Expanded Food and Nutrition Program, is an educational program for individuals and families with low incomes. Many of the newer families who have come in from other countries have been offered the program and helps them getting used to the food systems, the grocery stores, what to choose, which is vastly different from a lot of the countries that they've immigrated from. Food and nutrition classes have served about 1,340 people in the past year. The fourth program, horticulture, covers home gardening and using plants for landscaping. It's probably the most popular certification through the extension statewide. When the program is offered, the program fills up very quickly, and people wait for the next scheduled program. It's usually yearly. The Master Gardener program, the Master Gardeners themselves are volunteers, and they participate in a program called Harvest for Hunger. This year, Master Gardeners had 40 projects going on within the county. 150 Master Gardeners contributed 5,247 hours to people in Cumberland County. Teachers teaching teachers. It's a system of building volunteers who will teach what they learn in the programs, and that's one of the ways the programs continue and are sustained. The Cumberland County Extension has a monthly newsletter. We have probably in the handout the link to that website.
There, yeah, on the second page.
And we urge you to look at it. Take a few minutes to look at it. Look at what the programs that are being offered in that month. I think you'll find, like we believe, that the programs are really well designed and well taught. Tidewater Farm in Falmouth is probably the showplace for the horticulture program. The gardens for vegetables, herbs, native shrubs, and all of the insect and avian benefactors who can count Tidewater as a location. The Master Gardener Volunteer Program has an annual plant sale in May. The annual grant, I'll just say a few things about that, and then I want to elicit the questions that I'm sure you have. But just to say that the grant that is given to us yearly is absolutely necessary to the continuation of all these programs I've mentioned here. We understand that flat funding is probably the reality for the next fiscal year. We've lived with flat funding for 2 years, and at this time have included in our request a higher amount to cover the rising expenses in salary being the biggest cost for the office. Higher costs are the norm everywhere, and we thought it important to show our actual costs. This year, the university has asked us to cover the benefit packages for all new support hires, just the benefits. Being able to have unfilled vacancies to draw from, because we usually have at least one, sometimes two vacant positions. We've been able to draw from those vacancies to help cover the benefit package costs. And we're fortunate that we've had that. But it's not the solution to the increase in the salary budget line. All being said, we at Extension and at CCEA are grateful for the county's financial support through the annual grants, and we hope to be able to continue to work with you in the best interests of the citizens of Cumberland County now and in the future. So we'll take questions.
Actually, we've got one more, which I think is what you really want to see. Thank you, Tim, for that. And just so you know, Tim and I are volunteer board members. We don't get paid by the state. We do this because we love it. And we come here to sort of represent what it is that this amazing function provides to our communities. And I want to point out, let me just go through this for you. Each line is the last two fiscal years plus the current one. And I want to get you to all the way over to the far right column, which is the University of Maine's contribution to this extension service. So you can see that that is a much, much bigger amount, and that is entirely appropriate. And in that is where they pay for the professors. So we actually have full professors in this group, and assistant and professionals as well. And they actually own the building in Falmouth where we are housed. And so we pay rent to them. But they also charge us back for the services they provide to the citizens, as in the TIC Center, the soil testing center, the demonstration farms that they have, especially up in the north. And so we get an allocation that they're charging us for. But that is covered by them. That is not covered by you. It is covered by their own funds. So let me just walk you through the fiscal year 24 was our first flat funding situation. And you'll see our actual expenses were less than what we asked for because we were unable to staff. And as you can see in the next column, the salary costs are the biggest portion of what the county is funding for us, as well as for the university. And so in fiscal 25, you'll see that we actually had a deficit. We needed $128,000 to cover our expenses for the year. But you'll see that we were fortunate to actually be able to cover all of our staff needs for that year with the grant, so we were good to go. And now we look at fiscal 26, we're looking at a perhaps bigger gap that we will have to be dealing with. And the issue is going to be, we're not at this table to say we need more money this year, but it's giving us a signal that says that as time goes on, some of our programs may be in jeopardy. And we just want to alert you And just, use this time to ensure that everybody understands how important this is to the people that we who are citizens every day. Because this is where we live. It's our children, it's our food, it's our gardens, it's our lives. And it really does provide a great service to our folk. And we invite you, the Master Gardener's plant sale is on Memorial Day weekend. Be there, be square, and they are wonderful plants. And the Tidewater Farm is open for visitors, and it is a gorgeous place to visit. And if you do any kind of gardening whatsoever, go check it out, because you will get all of the hands-on view of what it takes to actually grow things. So with that, I think we will turn it back over to questions.
Thank you, thank you. You've been around for a long time, right?
Extension?
Yes.
Yeah.
Over 100
Yeah,
years.
long-
Abraham Lincoln established the service, so yeah, it's been a while.
I actually think it goes back to probably the 18th century, maybe even before the Civil War, 1840s, 1850s, when the land grant colleges were being established. They all had to have an extension
I
service.
think it's 1895 in Maine, yeah.
In Maine.
In Maine,
In
yeah,
Maine.
because,
I'm saying
you know,
nationwide, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. A lot of history, a lot of tradition.
I have a question, a couple questions, and they might be more for you, Jim. So, you mentioned, you started with that we're required under state law to fund, but the discretion is really in how much to fund from the grant. Is that really?
It's my belief that there's no clear threshold that we have to fund everything that's asked for.
And this is a grant coming out of a different pot of money that you guys have to disperse grants?
Straight out of the general
Okay.
fund.
Got it. And so, you guys are asking for more, that's what was in your application, or what you were asking for, and you're projecting that you're gonna stay flat? What is the reason why over the past 3-4 years that the recommendation has been to keep them flat?
The grant account for Cumberland County, prior to the FY '24, really pre-pandemic, was really running afoul. There was substantial budget allocations into grants, and there were a number of small grants. There was, when I first came here, there was probably 30 to 40 grant recipients of 3,000 here, 5,000 there, 10,000 there, and they all added up to about $380,000. In addition, there was always $10,000 to the Portland Public Library. There was $18,000 to Cumberland County Soil and Water. There was an allocation to the Extension Service. And over a number of years, there was a collapsing of that growth of that grant because the budgets just got too tight. It was no longer sustainable to fund all those grants. Plus, there was no real good process in place, I felt, when I became manager, that we were tracking and holding the recipients of the funds accountable on the back end of expending. And so in doing this, it took over like a 2-year process, but we collapsed all the 38 grants that we had. We collapsed it all into a single contribution to the United Way. And so you'll see in your budget, it's $100,000 to the United Way. United Way goes through the application process, they go through the reporting and data collection, and they give us a report every year on how the money is spent, and we get to choose they have goals on how the money is spent. And so in doing that, we collapsed that in there, we kind of froze the soil and water, we froze the Portland Public Library, and we've in a sense froze the Extension Service, though the Extension Service has crept up 5,000 here, 5,000 there over that short period of time, but it has not crept up to their asking of an annual application.
So in the budget that we got, is it the full ask that was in the grant submission that's included in the budget, or is it?
No, it's at that 125. Their full ask is, I think, that 172.
To me personally, it just would make sense at a minimum to at least fully cover the staff salary costs. That just seems like if it's gonna be 135, that it's not significant, but it just seems like that makes sense to me. If not the full grant, I mean, it seems reasonable, but.
Can we just clarify what the ask is? Because I also see in the Appendix A to your request, total costs from the county funds of 161,000 and change.
That might be more accurate, yeah. This might have come from we've actually made some changes to our staffing levels since this number came into being, so we reduced one of our positions to a .8 position instead of a full-time position, so that's probably the discrepancy. I would say in the Appendix A, that's gonna be your most accurate cost estimations for this year. So this is actually, I just put inaccurate data on the slide, I apologize.
So it's 161, not 172 is really that's what's in the application and that's
Yeah, the application would be our actual expense, yep.
And that's an increase of about 29% over last year's grant of 125K.
Yes, and I believe last year we asked for 150, so the amount that would have been estimated for FY '26 is probably what we requested for FY '26, that's the run right now, was more than we received. And the same for '25 as well. So if you go back historically through our applications, it does kind of delineate those costs.
So how do you cover the delta? Is it just through other grants that you go after if you need to?
Well, like, as Teresa mentioned, if you go back to FY '24, we did have a gap, so that's how we have been able to. And that's part of why we wanted to be here to talk to you guys, just to let you know that we do see coming the day when we will be unable to do that. And we won't be able to support our current staffing levels, which means we won't be able to support our current program levels. We're not there yet, and so this is more just of a, we wanted to come and share with this group kind of where we're at this time.
Just to clarify, us as program specialists, we're fully funded by the university. It's the support staff who the county is funding. And, you know, as I'm writing grants to do research, to investigate topics that our local farming community needs answers on, the administration of that grant is done mostly by the support staff. And I would not be able to write and receive the number of grants that I do if I didn't have the support staff. And the same thing goes with conferences and events. You know, we offer at least one conference per year that brings in 200 or so people from across the region. And we just wouldn't be able to do events like that if we didn't have the support staff to make it happen.
Yeah. So what I heard you say was you guys would be okay with 125, but there's a problem coming that would essentially get to a point where we would probably need to go up to one something in the future. So I guess the question is does it make sense, knowing that that's coming, to incrementally increase it as opposed to just keep it flat at 125? I don't know what the commissioners would be looking for from us from a recommendation on this, but it seems like, again, to me, I go back to, it might be the year to at least make sure that we're fully covering staff salary costs at a minimum, knowing that there's a need coming so that it's less of a big jump in future years.
I mean, I'm only one commissioner, certainly just one voice of many. We don't get into this level of detail as much. We get an overarching budget with, departments and, the special exceptions, as we're seeing this evening, since it's not part of the department. So, I really defer to the county manager and the budget finance director to understand, where we are as a totality and how do we smooth the curves. And I think your approach, we try to do this generally, is to avoid the big ups and downs and try to build if we can, or at least have things on our radar to understand where we're going that next year. So honestly, you know, I'm just here listening as a commissioner. It'll all come to us as a board at some point. It's up to you folks to ask all the good questions you have asked this evening and more to come around what's happening with our budget. And you folks will remand back the budget to us saying, we think X, Y, and Z, and then we'll discuss it. So it's really, it's your good work you're doing to help us at the end.
I think it would, if we had the kind of granular detail about salaries that we have for the county's employees, that we have in this kind of very lengthy budget, broken down. We're talking about support staff in a very generic sense. I don't know how many people we're talking about. It seems to me from that. Three people. Three. So it seems to me from the chart, or is actual expenses on top of staff salary costs?
No, that's a
No,
total.
sorry, that's the
That's a
total. That's the
total.
total actual. And then we broke it down for you between what is salary and then what is not salary.
Got it, okay. So what I'm seeing is fiscal year '24, there's an overage of, sorry, don't do math on my head, 29,000?
Yeah, that's good.
That's why I've been like sitting here. Okay. And then, that overage seems to cover the next year and almost entirely the year after that. But I don't know if that's what's been happening. Is that what's been happening? Like that you've had salaries that increased and you've been able to cover them without the 125 going up because of what happened in fiscal year '24?
We have, in that particular situation where we had, in '24, we had an overage, and so we used that to fund the underage for the next year.
And the year after?
Sorry?
And the year after?
Well, that's the year that we're in right now. We also have some reserve funds that we're able to pull from, but we look to those to be ways of mitigating the future issues that might happen here. But it's still, we still want to be able to bring to the table the true costs of what is happening in the office. And we as a team manage to the budget. So we look at it every month. We discuss what we're doing, seeing what could be done differently. But generally, we are looking to manage to the budget that we are given.
And Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, but that 128 is lower than what that FY '25 should have been if we had
Correct.
remained fully funded. We had staff turnover,
Staff, yeah.
so that is why that was at 128 versus the 147 maybe that was, if we had remained fully staffed.
So if I'm reading the chart correctly now, I'm focused on FY '26 for the decision, but thinking about FY '27 as what's coming down the road.
We're in FY '26 now.
Yeah,
Well,
so the budget you're.
What are we
considering-
deciding?
So we're talking about
This is-
27.
27.
Yeah.
So it's like
So
we're
you do have-
breaking even as of this budget year with the extra you had from
So
24.
that's what I was trying to
But
get at.
the
We are-
budget that you're
that
going
is
for
being used
now,
Yeah.
you don't have any leftovers, except for your reserve funds.
yes. Yeah. Which we are willing to spend, obviously. To use.
We're all like kind of in a difficult place, if you will. I know for my when I'm reviewing my municipal budget, I typically have 3 years of data in front of me. And then, having been on the council a while, I also have old books, 10-year-old budgets that I can reflect back and what I look for is trends. And so, most of us here tonight are first time at a county budget. We don't have the data, the historical background, and in fact, we have an enormous responsibility because the budget committee is charged with recommending a budget, and the commissioners are held to our recommendation, and if they don't, they have to come back to the budget committee and say, review it again. And so, it's a steep learning curve here for us, and thankfully, there's a lot of smart people here. And, I've been here for 5 years, and this is the first time I've ever heard, from you folks, so it's like, and I was really impressed with the snapshot that you sent me here, or Jim sent by email. It had, gave me an insight of what you actually do, and it's a lot, and so, I think, a lot of what the county does really doesn't get out to the general public, and that, dispatch, sheriff's department, there's so many things that happen in county government that really nobody is aware of. The general public's not aware of it. They don't use the services, they're not aware that they're being supplemented by, general assistance is a big thing that a lot of the communities have asked the county to pick up on. So, I think a lot of our questions are probably hard questions because it's new for all of us.
It's perfectly appropriate that I'm, having sat through what you were dealing with.
This is our first meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't envy you, and we appreciate that. And we're here to say we're part of the team, too. And we do work hard to let the Cumberland County citizens know about our services. And the university does a pretty good job of getting that information out. And we've built quite a large community of people who are the voice for the next generation to come to the table. So we recognize that we can be part of the solution. And we're here to sort of work to the budget as much as we can.
I'll say I'm new to this process, but I'm not new to what you do. I've been involved with community gardening in Portland for a long time. And, when you talk about these things, I think a lot of people think of farming and, more rural engagement with the cooperative extension. But, the downtown areas in Portland and the community gardens. Specifically, I was involved with a community garden that has no support from the city. So being able to do soil testing, I'm in one of the highest immigrant neighborhoods. And so you've got a lot of families who they want to be able to grow their own food, and there's a lot of remediation that's needed for soil on the peninsula between lead and, arsenic and all these other, potential contaminants. And it's just a really invaluable resource for getting, kind of the broad-based testing and learning about how to handle and plant and what to do with the food and adapt to the types of things that grow in this region. So I'm very, very happy that you're, here at the table asking for what you need. I think it's something that more people do need to understand, because I don't think people do think about it at the urban level as much, and I just want to put that forward and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, absolutely.
I would add to that to me, it doesn't matter whether people know that you're the ones doing the work. You're doing important work, you're doing work that adds value and that meets the requirements of the grant. You are dealing with food insecurity, you're having a regional impact. We unfortunately are penny pinchers. Figure out, where to put money, but it is no reflection on the value that you are putting towards this. And so I have to ask the uncomfortable question of how much do you have in reserve?
We have a couple $100,000. That has been built up over many years, and we are dipping into it as much as we can to fund things as we go along. Because we want the staff to be creative, come to the table and say, this is the service we want to provide, and can we make it happen? So we do that conversation as a board to deploy resources where we can. And we make those same kinds of judgments about what is the impact of that investment. And generally, we've got a wonderful staff that are incredibly creative and very well connected to the community. And so they know that what they're coming to ask for is going to get supported. In the budget process, over the years where we were not flat funded, we had program level funds specifically, so the horticulture program got $1,000. Each of the programs got $1,000. We are now down to 600 that they start off with. And they then, to the extent that and each program has a lot of their own fundraisers. The plant sale alone for the master gardeners is tens of thousands of dollars for them in terms of returns. So it is a constant conversation about, what do we need to get done? And what are the good ideas that are coming forward? And especially as we work with the communities, with the new Mainers in particular, that's a whole new set of opportunities for us to learn about what are the foods that we really want to learn how to grow. So we try to keep the good ideas flowing and creating value for the community.
So for the reserves that you have, if you weren't using them to offset your operating budget, what would you be using those funds for? Or like, is there a plan that you guys have, like a major program you're trying to save up for that you can't just get to because you're having to fund it with the operating budget?
You want to go? You're the guy.
So was it a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, we came together as an office and created this whole like want list, and, and it's extensive and it varies by program area, and we were thinking of ways to prioritize and think of the impacts of each of those. A 15-passenger van for moving youth around to 4-H youth programs, more investment down at the Tidewater Gardens.
We actually built some facilities at Tidewater Gardens. They have a cool bot where they now can store cooling of vegetables, and they have a shed that they actually store all of their stuff in, so.
I'm starting to use Tidewater more for agricultural research, so that's more localized, and I'm not driving all the way to Orono for research. So we have a whole list of needs that could benefit the community. I wanted to just note that that wasn't just us. The surplus is not from us just like putting out these huge grants and ask and then squirreling away a bunch of it. It is because of the staff turnover that we've had over the ages. We've also laid out a 5-year projection, and if we can remain fully funded and we stay flat funded at this 125.
You're made fully staffed.
Fully staffed, sorry, yeah. We would have used up our surplus within a 5-year window, something like
think
that.
so,
So
yeah.
we're trying to be conscientious. We want to, of course, we want the van, that would be awesome, but we also don't want to get ourselves in a bad situation down the road because we want to work with you all as well and make sure it works for everybody.
Do you get any support from the Cumberland Farmers Club?
I collaborate with them. I know most of them on the club.
Do they provide any financial support?
No.
Have you asked them for any?
We've not, no.
There are a lot of community organizations like that. They're usually asking for money too.
Yeah, or technical support, like the Cumberland County Farm Bureau. I'm on the board of directors. I'm connected with most of those groups, but not in a financial agreement.
It makes me think of what Sarah was saying about urban agriculture in the summer doing projects with cultivating communities. So they have the facilities in urban areas, and we have the educators that can come and share with the community, like, how can we take this facility? How can you have an orchard in the middle of a city? Or what does it look like to effectively grow culturally appropriate foods that you need? So a lot of times, I feel like leveraging partnerships might look more like resources, physical resources or knowledge than finances.
Yep.
Town of Cumberland just planted a community orchard a year ago.
Nice.
We're going to expand it again this year.
That's great. I
Great
didn't know
idea.
that happened.
We've got the water. California doesn't, except right now.
Do you have a sense of your TBD at the end there, you main funds? It was up, now down, up, and, I'm sure that's a big piece of it. How do you project for that?
We don't.
We don't.
Okay.
There are, right, like, there are things that we anticipate University of Maine to cover. So they cover the salaries for educational staff. they subsidize our rent. We're definitely not paying like a market rate rent in our building. And those are the kind of things that we can kind of estimate for. But just as likely, they come back and say, like, like Teresa was saying, this year, people in Cumberland County submitted X many ticks, which means it was this many dollars of service that went to Cumberland County residents. Or, you know, the phone bill was to keep your office running, or the lights on was this much, so that was the cost of that.
But in general, the UMaine budget is down. We're,
Yeah.
like, between federal grants and tuition dollars and many different things, and has been for a while, but it's, yeah, still.
Thing is, the extension administration in Orono is very impressive. They have worked hard to come up with centralized support that doesn't have to be done locally, and that has benefited a lot of the other counties. It's not as easy to do for Cumberland because we're so big and there's so much to do. But they've been very creative at trying to find ways of essentially reducing their footprint all around the state, because it's hard to manage 16 counties, you know? So they've been quite creative.
Stretching a shrinking budget like most everyone else.
Anything else we can do for you?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, folks. It was nice to meet you.
Yes.
And thank you for the work that you guys do, too. It's not easy.
Memorial Day. Whitewater Farm, spring's coming.
So that's the end of our formal presentations. I think I'll entertain questions about what you might want to see. And I think Jim might want to highlight to us who we're going to see for our next meeting. I know, again, it's difficult to look at a budget presentation that's holistically without, you know, having a history lesson to go with it.
Yeah.
You know, and having the data that backs up and you say, okay, well, this is trending this way, but we're gonna make a capital purchase that's gonna throw that number off. And then, you know, at the end of the day, you say, all right, well, the county manager has done everything he can, and he's presented us with a 5.3% budget, and, you know, anyways, I'm looking for some questions, some guidance, and Jim, jump in anytime.
I just, like, what I would be interested in the next meeting maybe to learn about, and I missed the first one, so I probably missed the whole spiel, was the difference of what you guys have in terms of the tax rate if we don't have jail revenue, and kind of what's the status in terms of the risk of that happening, and is that likely to happen this budget year, or is that something that may happen next budget year? I get it's all tied into contracts, but I think that's gonna be an important factor. And then, you know, I personally would be interested to understand, like, it seems like that's what's needed to fund this budget as presented, but is there creative ways in the budget that, rather than having, if this comes to pass, having that, rather than jumping straight to the 13%, is there a way to do it where next year is like 9% and then you get the full cost in the 28 budget, so that way we're giving a little bit of room and absorbing that increase to communities? So that's something I would be interested to better understand, is like, what would it take to actually do that? And, you know, it may not even be feasible, but just trying to like have that conversation around, if it was a 2-year process to get to that full amount, which means, I'm sure, tough choices in other departments, what would that look like? I think we've talked today a little bit about some revenue in dispatch that maybe could help close that gap. And there might be other things that were talked about that could help close that gap. So I'd just be curious to get your perspective on what would it actually look like if it was a 2-year process to get to that 13% increase.
Yeah, and you're thinking the same as I am. But what I was thinking is, instead of inserting any type of fund balance or any type of cash into it, the way I've been thinking is I really need to meet with the commissioners, and we need to look into the crystal ball and say, what's the legs on this contract? Is this contract gonna be over July 1st of this year because of state legislation coming down and it's gonna kill it from there? Or maybe it's a change of heart of the commissioners and they take up another vote of the contract. That means that's $3.3 million out of the current year budget. That would be the 13.77%. Right from there. Another case would be, and I would consider this somewhat of the best case, would be this time next year, that the contract, if it goes away, we get 6 months of revenue in the new budget to at least offset the year, so we're at least getting 50% of the revenue that we're projecting. And then the remaining 6 months, so that would, like you said, transition into that 8.5%, 9% that we would be building into this budget. Why do I think this time next year? Well, we have 2 open spots. We have 3 seats up. Commissioner Smith, hopefully she runs again.
I pulled my papers yesterday.
Okay, thank you very
I'm looking
much.
for re-election at the Commissioners.
But we have 2 seats. We have the Portland seat, District 5, and we have the District 3, which is Cumberland going up towards Brunswick, Harpswell. Both those commissioners are termed out. So we will have 2 new faces coming up.
3 maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, if I don't get re-elected, it could be 2 to 3.
So with that said, we don't know what the tea leaves read on what, if a vote ever takes up next year, next January. The vote that was taken by the current commissioners that decided to stay with the contract could be a different type of vote next January because of new people around the table.
And it's an annual contract, it's not a multi-year contract?
No, it automatically renews.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had this contract for 30-plus years. We renegotiated it back in 2023.
Yeah.
Largely in the 30-plus years, we had ICE inmates in the jail. We didn't have a lot. We had 1, 5, 8, but there wasn't a lot. It was mostly marshal service inmates in the tune of anywhere from 25 to 35. So this contract's nothing new to us. The last time we negotiated a new rate was back in 2010. And at that time, I think it was actually Mayor Dion, who was Sheriff Dion at the time. So we negotiated a new rate in 2023 at $150 a bed night per inmate. And then at that time, the federal inmates were not in the jail because they were removed from the jail because of our staffing levels. We had dipped down below levels that they felt it was unsafe for them. But they came back, I would say they started coming back about October of last year, 2024. And every month they got more and more.
So again, just for the next meeting, maybe to spend a little bit more time with the scenarios that you've outlined and like how you would react to the different things. It sounds like there's something that could happen at the state level that could prompt it. The current commissioners could vote and change it. The next commissioners could vote and change it. Like, what would that look like? And then how would you recommend, or where would you recommend to try and like soften the impact as best you can based on those different scenarios? It sounds like there's a scenario that's like maybe best case. And so again, I just would be curious to really understand that, because again, that might influence what I would think we as a group would recommend potentially to the commissioners.
I will share that there's very little wiggle room in the jail budget. The jail budget is a standalone budget that doesn't have a lot of flexibility in or out of it. It's pretty much the line items and it's the costs that's involved. When we lost the federal inmates 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we reduced, and it was the finance committee that pushed us and said, you need to right-size this jail. And we reduced the staffing there by 40 correction officers. And so we've already taken that hit. And we've since then only brought back 8 correction officers. So we're still down 32 correction officers in that jail. Really, the only other area that you can look at is food. And I did a quick number today at 80 inmates a day at $2.20 a meal, 3 meals a day, 352 days a year, comes out to about $185,000. So that's not 3.3 million. So there's very little wiggle room in the jail to say, okay, we're taking 80 federal inmates out of this jail, we should be able to cut millions out of this jail or hundreds of thousands of dollars. It just doesn't work that way.
I want to ask a bunch of questions, but I'm tired, so I'm not going to ask. But I think this would be interesting to explore at a future one, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, and January 27th, we will have the sheriff here. The sheriff will be here to talk about the sheriff law enforcement, the civil division that he has, and the jail. And so, as much as he can give you the in the weeds operations of the jail, as much as I'm kind of the strategic thinker in terms of contract and money chasing.
We having the fire coordinator too?
We opted not to do the fire coordinator because he's only been on the job for about 3 months. We'll let him get his feet underneath him first. We have the cross insurance arena on the 27th. We have IT. That might be it. I think we kept the
Have a list
20.
of goals for him anyways?
What's that?
Could he present maybe some goals or does he have a?
He's not gonna let go on it. Regionalization again?
Yes.
I will see what he has.
I mean, I think in the position paper, when we said yes to this position, we had a couple goals in mind or a vision statement of what we would see from this position. We could pull some of that information, just so you know why we thought this was a good investment.
He's working off the strategic plan that was developed by the town managers and the fire chiefs back in October of 2024. That's kind of been his kind of initial roadmap to start charting. And, but like I said, he's been on since September 1st. And he's just getting momentum going into the 3 committees he's been working with and the advisory.
Nothing like a shoe to his butt.
Question if I can ask. I'm a newbie here and I just wanted to get a better sense of the process in terms of what it is that we do. Do we come together and make a recommendation? And do we do that at some point down the road? What?
We will at the end of the process, we will take a vote to forward the budget to the commissioners.
Okay, and if we have, say, for example, an amount that we want it to be different for, the 125,000 flat funding, if we want to do something different than that, how do we reflect that information back?
My experience has been that we've up and down the budget as presented. We haven't, cherry-picked items. That's not to say that we can't do that.
How can we be useful here?
There have been times that the finance committee has made their recommendation to forward the budget onto the county commissioners with the following recommendations. And for instance, if it's a desire of the group to add a couple of dollars onto the extension service, you say consideration of additional funds for the extension service. You could say a specific amount or just keep it generic. But it's just kind of like line by line, what your feelings are, so that the commissioners can say, kind of understand where your thought process was.
Like line by each of the departments, or line by
Just kind of like line by line in terms of topic of
any recommendation?
any
Okay.
recommendation, yeah.
So like the year that you mentioned where you cut the jail with 40 FTE, was that a recommendation? You had mentioned that the committee had
Push
recommended it?
I
Yeah,
was on that,
you were.
I was on that, and we did, that was a recommendation.
That was a
Okay,
recommendation.
so that's like an example of like looking big picture, we might
Yeah.
see some things that we collectively recommend that the commissioners consider as they review the budget themselves.
Should we be keeping a
And I
list?
should specify, the year that the recommendation came for it was during COVID, and we were staffing at 128, and we had staff at like 65. And it was such a large, and we were trying our best to get those numbers up, but we just weren't. And the finance committee's like, realistically, are you gonna get up to 128? And we're like, no. And they're like, well, and they made a recommendation that that the county should look at right-sizing the jail. They didn't tell us to cut or unfund 40 positions. They just said the commissioners should look and work with staff to right-size this jail on the appropriate level of staffing in today's
There was a
climate.
period of time people were just leaving public service wholesale. I mean, it was local
And
police
correction
departments.
officers, hard to find a good correction officers that's gonna stay too. The jail's a special place.
We also used to have a tax anticipation note, because we were on a calendar year budget. Now we're on a fiscal year budget, but the finance committee drove that home to the commissioners and said, get off this tax anticipation note, stop paying this interest, change your budget year to a July to June. So that was the type of recommendation they made.
And I think there's been such great questions and good recommendations, at least over the 3 years that I've been a commissioner, and I think this is such a valuable service that you're providing. Thank you again. And it's also too, you have your budgets at home. You know, when I used to serve in South Portland, we look at, which is county thing, you know, what did county give us? And it's all those good questions of how do we all together regionally see the benefit of county, but, you know, what can we do better? What can we do differently? So that when you go home to your hometowns, you're like, yeah, I said yes to this county tax increase, and these are the reasons why. Or this is why I have recommendations, because I think it could be adjusted slightly for your towns too, and for us to learn, so.
Bob, should we keep a running list of things that we're thinking of that have come up?
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that. I was gonna start by saying, I suggest we all read the county charter. You know, I think it would be very helpful to see what our expectations, our duties are. And I think it's important that if we all think about it, a conversation about the responsibilities of us, you know, and where it falls out, you know, whether we want to say it's a gentle discussion about, or get down and say specific, we'd like to see this particular piece of the budget cut 10%, or a number. But I think that we should, you know, if there are things you want to know in the budget, either direct it to me or Jim, and ask for those to be, you know, elaborated on the next meeting. Anybody got anything else?
I let these people go home.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation tonight.
Yeah, thank you. It's always great.